Joining me now is Congresswoman Barbara Lee, a Democrat from California, and E.J. Dionne, Washington Post columnist, senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, and author of Our Divided Political Heart, The Battle for the American Idea in an Age of Discontent. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Happy to be with you.
Congresswoman, what do you think of the GOP's summer agenda?
Well, once again, their rhetoric doesn't meet the reality of what their summer agenda is. They talk about jobs, yet their summer agenda really is about the same thing they've always been about, and that is ensuring that tax cuts remain for the very wealthy. They're attempting to dismantle the public sector, and they're not talking about how to create one job. They won't even allow us to pass the President's American Recovery Act that would create thousands and thousands of jobs. And so they're not about creating jobs. I think their agenda for the summer is an ideological agenda of the Republican Tea Party. It's a campaign year, and they're trying to campaign, unfortunately, by hurting the American people and putting out this very backwards agenda.
Now, Congresswoman, in the memo, Cantor writes to Republicans that he wants them to help him plan a vote on Bush tax cuts by August. I'm quoting the memo. Before we leave for August, I expect to schedule a vote on legislation preventing the largest tax increase in history. Is that durable? Do they have the votes to bring this to a vote? And what do Democrats do?
Well, Democrats have always stood for middle-class tax cuts that would help low-income individuals and the working poor. The Republican Tea Party want to make sure that the Bush tax cuts are extended so that the very wealthy, the millionaires and the billionaires, can continue to receive the benefits that they have received while continuing to increase our deficit and make sure that we don't have an ability to create jobs. That's what the Tea Party Republicans' agenda is all about. We want to create jobs by investing in infrastructure, making sure that our healthcare sector moves forward, and really creating jobs that would really reignite the American dream for all.
Now, E.J., in your latest book, you write, and I'm quoting from the book, if everything that matters is at stake, then take enormous risk with the country's well-being, as House Republicans did in the debt ceiling battle, is no longer out of bounds. Rather, pushing the system to its limits and beyond become a form of patriotism. When your adversary's goals are deemed to be dishonorable, it's better to court chaos, win the fight, and pick up the pieces later. Interesting kind of statement, E.J.
Well, it sure seems to be what happened on the debt ceiling fight. And I think you have now a very different kind of Republican Party and a different kind of conservatism that rejects a lot of things that old conservatism and certainly liberal Republicans used to support. I talk in the book about people like Jacob Javits, who used to remind a liberal Republican from your state, of New York, who used to remind Republicans that their party was for national action on to end slavery and to promote civil rights and to build land-grant colleges or great state universities. Now they have rejected that, but old-time conservatives used to be in favor of some basic government action. At this point, conservatives either seem to reject ideas they once held, either because President Obama proposes them or because the only thing they're interested in is tax cuts. Now, if I could just add one quick point from Steve Bannon, the great blogger on the Maddow blog, they're not even consistent on this. He notes that Mr. Cantor and other conservatives say we can't cut defense because that'll hurt the economy, but we can cut everything else, and that's good for the economy. I mean, if that's economics, I'm an NBA superstar. My son might do it. He knows how to play the game, but not me.
Well, but it seems like they're inextricably linked to tax cuts. I mean, look, let me show you this sound.
Tax hikes destroy jobs, especially an increase in the magnitude that's set for the first of the year.
Permanent tax increases on job creators doesn't work to grow the economy.
How does raising taxes help create jobs? That's the question I think most Americans are asking.
I mean, it seems like job creation to them is based on tax cuts. Congresswoman?
Oh, go ahead, Congresswoman.
When we look at the Bush era, in terms of the tax cuts under the Bush administration, you saw an increase in the deficit and you saw a job loss. And you saw that these economic policies put us on the brink of a depression. There is no way we should go back to the Bush era tax cuts. What we must do is create jobs. Creating jobs helps reduce the deficit, but also it helps allow for the American dream for all, which has turned, quite frankly, into a nightmare for so many.
But, E.J., when you look at what they've done in the 112th Congress, they passed Protect Life Act, often referred to as Let Women Die Act, bans federal funds to cover any cost of any health care plan that covers abortion, Small Business Tax Cut Act, Mark Twain Commemorative Coin Act, Permanent Electronic Duck Stamp Act of 2012. I mean, none of these seem like there's a job-creating bill anywhere near it.
The Mark Twain and duck thing seem the most constructive of that list. You know, there's somebody who can answer that question, when did tax increases create jobs? And his name is Bill Clinton. And we raised taxes. Democrats in Congress raised taxes in 1993 so we could balance the budget and so government could have enough money to do what we need government to do. And we have the best economy we have had in a very, very long time. And it was one of the few periods toward the end of the Clinton years where rich people were getting richer, but people at the bottom were starting to come up too. So it's a myth that tax increases cannot create jobs, and it's a myth that tax increases, tax cuts always create jobs, because as you pointed out, and the Congresswoman pointed out, the tax cuts of the Bush era did not create such a great economy.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee and E.J. Dionne, thank you both for your time tonight, and have a great holiday.